Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. And today's video, I'm going to be showing some malicious Excel macros inside of Outlook. And I'm also going to be showing how we might be able to spot things like this happening inside a domain environment using Security Onion's Playbook feature, which has Sigma rules built in. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. So the C2 framework that I'm going to be using for the callback is PowerShell Empire, and I'm going to be using Starkiller GUI to connect into the server, and the listener is set up over HTTPS so to evade IDS, which makes it a little bit difficult, kind of gives some more realism to it, right? And also the stager is a XML file, and you can create the stager here. It's simple. You can just go XML, and this is essentially it. And the XML file is gzipped and base64 encoded and stuffed into the properties of the Excel file, which then is called upon by the macro inside the Excel file. Very cool, very interesting, but this particular beacon a little unstable, so you have to be really quick on spawning an additional process with PowerShell Empire so you can have a more stable line of communication. And we'll see if we can see that inside Security Onion using the Sigma Playbook rules, and then we'll go into seeing if we can correlate and tie as much data together as possible using Security Onion's native case feature, which is something that's really cool as well. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Here on this workstation is the person that we're going to be essentially phishing, right? And they're receiving an email from Bob, and Bob is just a new employee, okay? And he doesn't know what the deal is. So he got some email from someone in HR that essentially came from an attacker who was posing as HR and was told to send us off to his manager for verification. So the malware is actually in an Excel file that is zipped up and report update, right? So Bob gets it, and he takes the email and he sends it over to Larry at the SOC. This is new update. All right, cool deal. Bob attaches the email, and there you go. And this. And of course, we're always updating Excel and PowerPoint and stuff, so probably nothing out of the ordinary when Larry gets this from Bob. So Larry shoots it on over, or Bob shoots it on over to Larry. Larry sees it in his Outlook. He looks at it, comes from Bob, says, yep, I know Bob. What he does is he goes ahead and he saves it to his desktop. He's like, oh man, another report. So he deletes his old reports, he saves a new one. Like, okay, all right, what's inside this report, right? Now, as you can see, there's no callback to Empire right here, nothing yet, and it'll come here soon, trust me. So Larry looks at his new report, and he extracts everything, he opens it, he looks at it, he's like, all right, what's going on? Just a button inside the report. Okay, what does this Excel file do? Doesn't do anything. And then soon you'll see this Microsoft Outlook prompt open. It says something's trying to access something inside the email, and then it goes away. I'll explain that more. Now, sometime later, Bob gets another email from a friend, and it's a job opening, and he takes it. He says, you know what? I don't need a job. I'm going to go ahead and send this off to Larry to see if Larry knows anybody, since he's our manager. He might be looking for a new job, right? And inside this email, Bob does not know that there are trigger words that came from the guy who's a red teamer or whatever, trying to essentially phish their environment. And these trigger words are in here that would trigger the second stager. As you can see, there's no beacon, right? So Bob takes the email and he sends it over to Larry at the SOC. Okay. And Larry sees the email, opens it up, and then what should happen here in just a moment, after Larry looks at the email, we should get a callback, because that is the second part of the stager. So we do, and we need to be quick to see if we can spawn into another process, right? And we'll just use some native features that come with PowerShell. We'll just go ahead and leave everything default, execute that task, go back to our agents, and maybe hopefully this worked. You have to be quick, depending on how your inject is crafted. You may or may not get a callback in time, but essentially you can see that the second part of the stager from the Excel file successfully called back, right? Now, if Larry kept looking at this email, right, or he got it again and pressed on it again, he could get phished again. And we may try to see if we could list processes if the SOC guy wasn't smart enough to stop clicking on things. All right, this is possible. People do dumb things, so you just have to be cognizant of that. But as you can see, the Excel file, which was kicked off by the trigger words via Outlook, it did execute properly. So we may want to ensure that we make sure when our initial access as a red teamer, it may be a little bit more stable. So if you look right here, we can see the original one is still up, or we have the second one and the third one. So it seemed like once the first one came in and we tried to spawn, it actually worked. So we were just a little impatient, which is fine. No worries there. And this is going to be actually kind of interesting. So let's see if we can list any processes that are running, or any services that are running with our new inject. And we can go back to here and we can see that the first two, which is the original one, looks like it could have died. So that one's probably going to fade out. Now we can look right here in our tasks and see if we have any information based off what services are running on this endpoint, which we do right here. Okay, so cool deal. Looks like we have a stable line of communication. We may want to do some more enumeration. What we can just do NS lookup to see, actually, we can see who am I. We know we're Larry, but up our red teamer, we don't exactly know who clicked on what. So as you can see, our two initial beacons died. The second one was when I clicked on the Excel file again, just to show you how it worked. And then the third one that came in was actually the spawning from the initial one. So it looks like we were quick enough to catch that. And we might see some interesting things in Playbook alerts inside Security Onion that could, say, hey, something is not right here. So let's look, let's see if we've got any information back. And we're just gonna kind of see how far we can go with this initial access. And here for CyberLabs Larry, okay, good deal. So CyberLabs is the domain, username Larry, and let's see if, actually, you know what? Let's see if we can dump creds. Dumping creds is always fun. So let's go right to here and let's just do it. Let's just go for it. And boom, let's see if we can just get hashes, right? Depending on what AV is running in the environment, you may get immediately squashed. But when we look at the logs here in a minute, we're probably going to see a lot of this. So if you do have AV and it's air gapped and you're not updating your signatures correctly, and someone comes out with a new way to maliciously phish users from the inside by going through a user and then to another user, and you don't have up-to-date signatures, then you want to rely on something like Windows event logs that could be fed into Security Onion that will then help you or enable you to use Sigma rules to tune the environment or to tune those rules and to give you some additional alerting capabilities, because EDR or AV might not catch everything, right? So just be cognizant of that. So we can see that the job started right here, and we could wait momentarily for the Mimikatz module inside PowerShell Empire to kick off and do its deal, and let's see if we get anything back. Depending on, like I said, if we have any AV in the environment, it may kill this process. It could see that something malicious is going on inside of PowerShell. Just want to be cognizant of that, right? And we'll just click on it one more time just to see. Now, this is the free version. If you're a sponsor, you're going to obviously have more features with Starkiller and PowerShell Empire. So we'll come back to this. This may or may not work, but what we're going to do is we're going to switch on over to Playbook alerts, and we'll just go ahead and refresh. And here we can see a lot of interesting new alerts that we have from Playbook. And what I did before I started this, I just enabled all the Sigma rules just to see what it would hit on if we were going to become a compromised endpoint, if we had proper logging on the endpoint, if we were sending that to a robust SIEM and maybe it's a distributed grid, if we had everything properly tuned, if it got past AV, what would we see when enabling Sigma rules? And here's the case. Now, spear phishing emails are like 90% of why cybersecurity incidents happen, because people click on things and they're not knowing where they're coming from. So it's kind of funny. But here you can see that we have a slew of different Playbook rules, right? Remote PowerShell execution. This one in particular right here, Microsoft Office product spawning Windows shell. Very interesting. Empire PowerShell launch parameters, also very interesting. I don't know if maybe our beacon is, it looks like our beacon's still alive. Cool, let's just give it another task. Let's see, host name. This is just like low level enumeration, all right? So we'll just kind of keep that in the queue for now. Let's go back to Security Onion and let's look at this one right here and see if we can start making some cases. So let's go ahead and drill down and explain a little bit more about what happened with Excel. If we look down in the logs right here, we can see that we have Larry, who was phished. Larry that works in the SOC, he should know better. He opened this report update.excel file, and we see that MS Build was used on the backend to compile XML files. So here's one that we have, MS Build prompt bypass. So this was compiled by MS Build, kicked off by the macro when he clicked on the button inside the Excel file, when he got that email from Bob. And when the macro initiated by clicking that button, it looked at the properties inside the Excel file and then decoded those properties. And then what happened was, once he decoded those properties, MS Build was used on the back end to compile the XML file so that the inject could continue on, right? And this was to bypass the prompt that you saw when Outlook said, hey, something's trying to access something, and then it suppressed it, right? We might be able to actually pick up on some other things that happen as well. But for now, since we have that one, let's go ahead and send this over here. Actually, let's do a new one. Escalate to new case. All right, that might have been some residuals from when I was doing some testing. And let's go ahead and look at another one, see what we have. All right, so we have another XML file that was associated with the report update Excel. So this was actually msbuild_outlook.xml originally came from a PowerShell script that what it does is it opens up the avenue for programs to interact with Outlook. And I learned a lot of these techniques from INE Labs, so shout out to them. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but essentially once this is compiled, it opens up the first avenue, and then the bypass XML, which is compiled after that, suppresses that action for Outlook so that you won't see it anymore. And then it essentially waits for the trigger email to come in, which is triggering the stager that we got from PowerShell Empire, the launcher.xml. So it's like a three-part process for the Excel file, which consists of 2 emails, right? Very interesting, and we would want to also escalate this to our existing case. We'll go ahead, actually we probably have to do here, actually let's go to our cases real quick. Make sure that's in there, looks like it's in there. We have our events, just wanted to make sure that that was in there. Now let's go back and we'll go ahead and escalate. So we have that as well, good. And if we wanted to go back to the cases to make sure that if we see something that could be an observable in the events, we can add that as an observable. So we can go to the first one and maybe we want to add like hashes, because the hashes are really good. They are kind of consistent throughout the logs. So we may want to hunt on this MS build prompt bypass, because it could be something that may be systemic throughout the environment that we need to track down, right? So we can add our SHA-1 or MD5. So what we'll do is see this little eyeball right here. And this is such a cool little feature from Security Onion. We can click this feature right here and add it as an observable. And we can tag it as such, you know, nifty little things and assign it and whatnot. But what we'll do is just go ahead and leave it as default. Just add that. Okay, and we'll go back to events. If there's anything else we want to look at, let's look at this one. And I think this was MS Build Outlook. Yeah. Let's go down right here. And we have the prompt bypass. Probably want to add that as well. Okay, so that's systemic throughout the environment. We'll add, so we have, oh, looks like that was the same hash. So we probably want to add the other one, but nonetheless, you can see how easy it is, right? Go back to alerts, and looks like we looked at Microsoft Office product spawning Windows shell. The next one, which is interesting, is Empire PowerShell launch parameters, and then PowerShell network connections, and then who am I? And so we can see we got some stuff going on here. Let's see if our beacon is still active. It looks like our beacon is indeed still active. And let's look at it real quick to see if we have anything else as far as Mimikatz doing the dumping of the credentials. So I don't think we got anything back. Probably nothing in here. Let's try to see if we can do this again. Let's see if we can catch that. Let's go here. Mimikatz. See if we can dump hashes, certs, keys, C# credential, Mimikatz. That might be interesting. I wonder if we can do that one right there. So let's go and let's click on this one, and at 40, and let's see if we can dump passwords. Let's go ahead and submit. This may kill our beacon, depending on how stable our beacon is. This may load into the process and just completely blow it up. So might want to be careful with that, but let's see if anything else alerts, like any more logs in Sigma, right? Let's go back to our scene. And you can see we're definitely getting more information in. Let's look at this one. We might want to attach this as well. So critical alerts, and let's scroll down. And it looks like we have a bunch of base 64 encoding. So what we can do, and I'm sure we could probably just pivot on over to CyberChef and take that, and from, oops, let's go here. Actually might want to just do this. I'm sure there's another way but let's copy and then paste. Let's see here, from, and then we can see here some additional information about this base64 encoded thing that's happening inside the logs. So we would probably look at this a little bit more in detail and kind of decipher what's happening. Don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with that one, but definitely looks suspect. It looks like it's executing from the C public libraries, so that might give us a location on where to look. And then also we can see parent command line, which is associated with this MS build stager. So probably want to go ahead and merge this with an existing case, which was our Microsoft Office product spawning Windows shell. And let's go back and see what else we can get. We have some in-memory PowerShell happening, remote PowerShell session, who am I execution, local account interaction, PowerShell network connections. I think we need to go ahead and probably look at that as well. Now I'm going to show you how we can pivot from, if we didn't have this particular alert right here, which we'll go ahead and add, right? Because it's associated with our cyber admin at cyberlabs.local. So we'll go ahead and add this, okay? And we'll go ahead and push to our existing case. Now, if we didn't know or didn't have this log or this alert telling us PowerShell network connections happening, what we could do is we could go back to our case, right? And we can zoom in and go to our events, right? And then we can look to see what host we have. All right, let's just say we have host name and some, additional logs, for Excel macro janky stuff happening. What we do is we can push an observable like host name to here, to our observables. And we just leave everything default and get more granular with it later. So here we have our value for one of our observables. And here, this little bullseye, we can go ahead and hunt our cyber admin host. So now we're in the hunt feature inside security onion. And what we can do, we can look at the first log and we can aggregate by host name or group by, and then we can also group by event module, right? And we can also group by event dataset right here. And we scroll up and we have everything under one nifty little pane. We can go ahead and expand this out to 25. And what we're trying to look for is if we have correct logging on the endpoint, if we can look at network connections, right? Because we have something that's connecting outward to the C2, to our Empire, right? And looks like that didn't execute and it probably blew this thing up. No, it's still going. Interesting. So we still have a stable connection. So let's look at network connections, right? And we'll go ahead and include here. You see PowerShell connecting, making network connections. And here we can see msbuild.exe. So off the cuff, this is what we were initially looking for, or what we initially found interacting with the Excel file, right? So this is definitely an observable. I'm going to go ahead and attach this to our existing case. And there we go. We can go back and we can also attach this one as well, so we're not losing it. We can go back to cases, look at our new one here. Okay, zoom in, look at our events, and we can see that we have under our dataset network connections. And we can go and zoom in on our network connections. We can add this destination IP as an observable. Let's go ahead and add that. All right, keep everything default. And now that we want, we can go ahead and search and hunt for everything associated with this IP. So now we can look at con logs, we can look at SSL logs, we can look at host logs, anything that may be associated with this particular IP is in the host logs, or in the seam, so to speak. Could be in host logs, could be in con logs, who knows. But what we're doing is we're trying to aggregate everything around observables as quick as possible so we can back up on the case. And you can go back into alerts and see what else may have executed and was caught by Sigma by enabling these playbook rules, and add additional alerts to the existing case that stemmed from the Office product spawning Windows shell. And yeah, pretty cool, real nifty. We can see that our beacon is still alive from the initial access, and we would probably hunt more on this, maybe build some dashboards and go from there. Yeah, so I just wanted to pretty much show how you could use Security Onion and Sigma and Playbook rules to really help focus in on like host logs if things are getting past IDS or maybe past your firewall and stuff like that. And show how you can use PowerShell Empire. It was really noob techniques that I was doing, local enumeration and so on and so forth. If you wanted to expand out a little bit more, yeah, you dump creds, you enumerate the environment, use Bloodhound and whatnot, and you probably more than likely get a lot more hits on in Security Onion, such as this. This is another one right here. If this was something that seemed malicious that was happening on the endpoint, you would probably want to go ahead and attach this as well to the case from the initial access. So it just goes to show that there's a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility when it comes to Security Onion and aggregating logs under one scene, and I really like it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was very fun. I kind of like doing this stuff just to see, learn how to do bad stuff, learn how to catch the bad stuff, and then bring it all together in the middle. If you have any questions or comments, just leave it below, and yeah, I'll see about making another video, and we'll go from there. You guys take it easy.